Hey guys, welcome to this video. This video is going to be a bit more advanced. It's not going to be as straightforward as the other ones because in this video I'm going to demonstrate how you could. I'm not going to create that talk that much about SQL servers, but basically I'm going to create an implementation of an SQL server and I'm going to connect it to a Blazor application using .NET and Entity Framework Core. Uh, Now, I will use .NET Stack for this. You feel free, you can use whatever you want, right? Because the SQL server isn't tied to a specific tech stack, right? You can use more or less, you can use SQL in any software project that you start. And SQL is one of the most popular databases out there, right? So in this video, we're gonna do a couple of things. The first thing is we're going to create an SQL server. This will be like the actual hardware behind our servers, right? And on top of that, we will also install the SQL database. This database we will then connect to via Visual Studio and a Blazor application using Entity Framework Core with the code first approach. So I'll make a class and then I'll push this code up to Azure SQL using the migrations and so forth. So let's start. The first thing we need is an SQL server. So if we wanna work with SQL databases, we need an SQL server, right? So in order to create an SQL database, you need an SQL server. That's the way it works in Azure, right? And that's kind of the way it works on your computer. In order for you to create a table or a database in your on your computer, you first need to download SQL Server or SQLite or MySQL or whatever, right? You need to download the engine itself. So let's create an SQL server by going to SQL servers. From here, we'll press create. And from here, there are some things we need to add to fix, right? So the first thing is, as usual, you need to have the subscription, right? And then you need to have a resource group. I didn't create a resource group when I started this demonstration, so I'll need to create one right now. And I'll call this resource group, we're going to call it RK for Robin Camo, and then we'll call it Azure SQL demo, right? Like so. Then we need to give our server a name. This name needs to be unique because again, will be our web server and we will connect via this unique server URL or name. So here you cannot put test because most likely somebody already has this name, right? Yeah, it's not, it's already in use, right? So it has to be something unique. So I'm gonna just call this Azure SQL demo. Uh, let's see. It's already in use. Let's call it Azure SQL Demo 123. There we go. Now we need to choose a location or a region for this, and we're gonna go with West Europe. There we go, West Europe. And then for the authentication, we will use SQL authentication. Well, you could use actually both SQL and Microsoft Entra, but I will not go into Microsoft Entra today. I will just use SQL authentication. When you press use SQL authentication, you need to create an admin login and password, right? So I'll call this, let's call this Azure admin. And I'm gonna actually save this in a notepad because I have a tendency to forget these kind of things. So here we go. So I'm gonna give it, the server name is going to be Azure admin, the server admin I mean, and the password will just use, let's use, so it has to be at least 8 characters. Okay, there we go. There we go. So let's just do. So the code I put Azure 12345 exclamation mark, right? This is what you need. You need a big letter, small letters, some numbers, and a special character, right? So this is my admin login and Azure admin, and this is my password. Now I can press review and create. There we go. So I pressed create, and now I'm in my resource group. I'm just waiting for the actual SQL server to be created, and this might take like 20 seconds or so. After that's done, we want to create our database, but out of experience, I've noticed that it's kind of good if you wait like 5 to 10 minutes to create your database because it takes some time for Azure API to actually recognize the server. There we go. Now my SQL or my Azure SQL server is up, I can browse it. So now I'm in my actual SQL server, right? And in my server, there's a couple of things here. I'm not going to go through them. I'm just going to go through the bare minimums to get this up and running, right? So in this left hand tab, you can go to SQL databases and you will see you have no databases found. It's because you didn't create a database yet, you just created a server. Now this server can hold multiple databases, right? So what we need to do is we need to now create a database for this, right? So we'll go back to overview, and from the overview we'll press create database. Now, here, some things are important for you guys to know, and it's really important that you guys don't fuck this up, right? Because if you do fuck it up, it's gonna cost you a lot of money. It's not gonna cost you a lot of money. Well, of course, it's going to cost you a lot of money, but it's also going to cost me a lot of money, right? So, please pay attention on this part. When you create an SQL database for hobby purposes or for development purposes or for testing purposes, you need to make sure that you don't pay this amount, right? This is a very expensive amount, and we don't want to pay this, right? So, and the reason why we're paying this much is because when you create an SQL database in Azure, you actually kind of paying for everything at once. So there's kind of you're paying for all the gigabyte and everything like that, even if you do not use everything, and that's because it's in this a general purpose mode, right? So I'm going to get to that real soon. But the first thing you should always check is this amount. If you see anything absurd like this, then you should know that something is wrong. Like this is not correct, right? It's correct probably if you make a develop or a production tier database with a lot of customers, but this is way too much for development, right? And I'm going to show you how to get this cost down very shortly. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Well, the project details, you need the same thing, right? So you need the subscription and you need a resource group, and that's already set here, right? So now we'll put in the database details. So we need to give our database a name, and let's just call this user DB or something like that. So I'm going to store users in this database, right? And it already chose the correct server because, well, I was in the resource SQL demo 123, which is an SQL server, and then from there I pressed add database, and then it figures out that this is what I need, right? uh, Elastic Pool is recommended actually, right? But so basically, an Elastic Pool is much cheaper than having a production environment, but development is also very cheap. So you can skip Elastic Pool for now, just press no. But for this one, the workload environment, this is very important that you choose development here. Because when you choose development, it goes from a provisioned database to a serverless database. And basically, a serverless database isn't as secure as a provisioned database, but we don't need that currently. We don't need production tier hardware because, again, this is just a demonstration. And you guys most likely during these parts of this course won't use this database for production. You will only use it for development and testing, right? And now we can see that our cost summary decreased dramatically, because now we're no longer paying for a provisioned database. Paying as we pay as we go, right? So basically you're paying for what you need and when you're using it. You don't pay ahead, or you don't pay for a quota, right? But there are more things we can do to make this cheaper, right? So if we press development and then you go to this compute and storage, and then you press this configure database, right? So you press this tab, and then you'll get to this tier, or to this page. And on this page you can do a couple of things, right? You can set up different things. So for example, the service tier, right? So you have this most budget friendly, highly scalable, and storage, highest availability and performance. Let's just see the difference, right? So we'll have a hyperscale. Uh, it it had a bit higher price. And then you have this business scale, and you see immediately it goes to standard series, and you see how expensive it becomes, right? But basically you have basic, standard, and premium, right? Uh, Basic, then you can so you have these finished models, and you can also choose a DTU based model. And here you can actually choose how many cores and how much data you want more precisely, right? But what we want is this one, most budget friendly one, right? So press budget friendly, and then make sure it's not provisioned, not provisioned. It has to be serverless. Okay, so you choose serverless, and then for the cores you go one core, right? You don't need two cores, not at this stage. Should you just do one core, and then everything should be at minimum, right? And now when you see there is no dramatic cost, now you can press apply. There we go. So now we scroll back up again, and we see that there is no dramatic price here, right? So this is what we pay when we're using it. And this is what we're paying for the storage per month, right? This is what we're paying for the gigabytes, etc., etc., etc. Again, no major cost, right? And now we can go to review and create. Well, yeah, so backup storage, just go locally redundant storage. Don't need anything else. And then you can press review and create. So there we go. I'm back in my research group, and I'm waiting for my SQL database to finish. Currently is still being created, as you can see up here. Uh, but basically now we have everything we need to create, well, we actually created an SQL database, but this database, it will have no tables, it will have no data, and I will show it to you real soon. But there are some things, some configuration things we need to change in order for us to actually use this SQL server the way we want to use it. Let's press refresh again. It still didn't finish. I'm gonna wait a minute or two. There we go. Now the database is done. You can see user DB, and it's the type is SQL database. Now I have an SQL server, and I have an SQL database. Now I've pressed the database, so now I'm inside the database, and this is an actual database. This database can hold tables, right? SQL tables, and we can check that out, check the tables, etc., by going to the query editor. But there will be one problem, because by default, an SQL server is set to not allow anybody into the database. And in order for us to connect to our database from our IP address, we need to whitelist it. But I'm going to show it to you first. So in order to see what's in your database, you go to this tab called Query Editor. And here you will log in with the credential you made, right? So it's Azure Admin. So I'm going to take this Azure Admin here. There we go. And then the password was Azure12345 exclamation mark. Azure12345 exclamation mark. I press OK. And here you'll see reason. You see I have an error. An instance specific error occurred while establishing a connection to SQL Server. Connection was denied since deny public network access is set to yes. So basically, I cannot connect to my database because my configurations are saying that do not allow anybody. And in order for me to fix that, in order for me to fix this, in order for me to whitelist my IP address, because this is the way you want it to be. You don't want anybody or anyone to be able to connect you to your database. You want to be able to control who can connect to your database using IP addresses, or you can use the Entra ID, right? But in order for me to whitelist my IP address, I have to add the IP address to the networking tab. And in order for me to do that, I have to go back to the SQL server. So not the database, I have to go to the SQL server. So let's go back to the SQL server by going to our resource group. In our resource group, we want to go to our SQL server. And from here, we want to scroll down to this, to the security. There's a security tab and networking. Press networking. So in networking tab, the first thing you need to do is you need to allow selected networks, and you do it by pressing this one. There you go. And then you will scroll down to firewall rules. Allow certain public IP addresses to access your resource, right? So what you want to do here is you want to add your own client IPv4 address. So you press this one. Now it says address must be a valid IPv4 address. Address must be a valid IPv4 address. So we need a start address and we need an end address. So how do you find your IPv4 address? Well, it's pretty easy. So what you can do is you can start the terminal, right? CMD. Here we go. So this is my terminal, right? And in here, you'll type ipconfig. So again, basically, you open up your command, your terminal, you put in ipconfig. So you write in the terminal, you write ipconfig, and you press enter. When you press enter, you will get you will get the IP config for all the devices you have, and you will see something called IPv4 address, right? You might have a couple of them. You can just try, depending on how many networks card your computer or you have, or how many networks you're connected to. But basically, find your IPv4 address there and copy paste it, right? And you copy paste it into these fields. So the start address and the end address is the same. So the same IPv4 address here and here. And I'm going to pause the recording while I do this. So after you've pressed save, after you find your IPv4 address, put it in and you press save, you can now go back to your SQL database. And let's do it by going back to our resource group first. So here's my resource group. And from here, I will go to my database now again. From here, I will go to query editor. And now it should work, right? So let's try again. Azure 12345 exclamation mark. Press OK. And there we go, logged in as an Azure admin. Now, when you try this, you might get an error, right? And if you do get an error, please write a comment or send me a message on Discord or something. But it might say missing for this specific IP address, and it will say your IP address. You can just copy that and go back to the SQL server and add that as well, right? Sometimes you need to add two. But here, this is now my database. So I am now inside my database, and I can see that there are actually no tables, right? So there is no tables in this database currently. So so far, and maybe I will do it like this. I will actually do that. I will make this a two-part video, right? So the first part is this is the part, right, where you how to set up an SQL server and an SQL database, and also how to whitelist your own IP address. So now we have everything we need here, right? And I could also just demonstrate this real fast. So before I end this video, I just want to show you guys. So this table is empty, right? So there is this table. There are currently no tables in my database. Here I could run a very fast query. So let's say create table, and let's call this animal. Let's just say assume we're making an animal, a table of animals, right? And here I will do like this, and I will do like this, and I will just do like this. And then what do we want? So we want to have animal. I need to spell animal correctly, first of all. Animal, like that. And then what do we want? What columns do we want? Okay, so let's just go with let's go with animal ID, right? And it's going to be int, and let's have it primary key. And let's also use identity one of one, right? So auto increment. And then let's use put a name. So let's just well, animals don't have names, right? So maybe, well, maybe they do actually, right? But I'm thinking like if you have multiple cows or whatever, maybe you don't name them, or do you? Animal name. Let's use that animal name, and this will be nvarchar. We'll put it at 255, and then we'll do animal. I don't even know animal age. I don't know why I chose animals. I'm really bad with animals. It is so stupid, but that's what I've been telling you guys. I'm very not creative, right? And when when I get in front of the challenge, like create a name or when you need to come up with things on the spot, I kind of freeze. So now we went with animal. So let's go animal age and int, and that's it, right? So we now have a table called animal. This animal will have three columns: animal ID, animal name, and animal age. Let's run this query, run, and we should refresh this, and now we should see one table, DBO animals. So here we go. Here you go. You see we have one animal table, right? And we can also insert something into this table. Insert into, and let's insert into animal, right? And what do we want to insert? Oops, we're gonna do like this, values, and then we go insert into, and then we need to also specify the columns we're going to use. So let's put in animal name, right? And we're going to do animal uh, age. The thing is, do I have to? Maybe I do. dbo.animal. Can I do like this? Animal. No, it doesn't really matter. I think this works. Animal name, animal age, right? I think this works. Let's see. So animal name will be Bob, and the animal age will be, I don't know, 13 or something like that. Let's run this query, execute it. It worked. Let's do another one. Let's call this animal Frank, and Frank is, I don't know, 5 years old. Let's run this query, and it seems like it worked. And let's now see our database. So select star from animal, right? So select star means get everything from this table. Let's run, and then we can see there are now two animals in my table. One is called Bob, one is called Frank. So that's it for this video, guys. I will shortly post a second video of how you can connect from Visual Studio and use .NET and Blazor to read and write to an SQL database hosted on Azure. But that's it for this video, guys. Thank you very much, and see you later.